I thought buying a ranch for my retirement would be the beginning of my peaceful golden years. I was wrong. It became a battlefield. And the enemy? My own son. But before you judge me for what I did, let me tell you the whole story. Because sometimes, the people we love the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. My name is Margaret. I'm 58 years old. I spent 35 years as a registered nurse, working double shifts, holidays, and weekends. I missed birthdays. I missed anniversaries. I even missed my own mother's final days because I was covering for someone else. But I did it all for one reason: to build a future where I could finally breathe. Where I could wake up without an alarm. Where I could sit on a porch with a cup of coffee and watch the sunrise without rushing anywhere. After 3 decades of saving every penny I could, I finally had enough. I retired last spring. And with my retirement fund and savings, I bought a 20-acre ranch 2 hours outside the city. It wasn't fancy. The house needed paint. The fences needed mending. But it was mine. All mine. The moment I signed those papers, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: freedom. The ranch sat at the end of a long dirt road, surrounded by oak trees and rolling hills. There was a small barn, a chicken coop that needed repairs, and a pond where ducks would land every morning. The air smelled like wildflowers and rain. The silence was so complete, I could hear my own heartbeat. It was perfect. It was everything I had dreamed of. I spent the first month just settling in. I painted the kitchen a soft yellow. I planted tomatoes and herbs in the garden. I bought 6 chickens and named every single one. I even adopted a 3-legged dog from the shelter. I called him Rusty. He became my shadow, following me everywhere. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was living, not just surviving. One Saturday afternoon, I invited my son Bradley and his wife Stephanie to visit. Bradley is my only child. I raised him alone after his father left when he was 5. I worked myself to the bone to give him a good life. I paid for his college. I helped him with his first car. I was always there. Always. So when he pulled up in his shiny SUV and stepped out with that big smile, I felt proud. My boy. My son. We spent the afternoon walking the property. Bradley seemed genuinely impressed. He took photos. He asked questions. He even helped me fix a section of the fence. Stephanie, on the other hand, spent most of the time on her phone, complaining about the lack of cell signal. But I didn't care. I was just happy to have them there. Over dinner, I shared my plans. I wanted to expand the garden. Maybe get a few goats. Host small family gatherings on holidays. Nothing big. Nothing complicated. Just a simple, quiet life. Bradley nodded along, but then he said something that should have been a red flag. He said, "Mom, this place has so much potential. You could really do something with it." I laughed. I am doing something with it. I'm enjoying it. He smiled, but there was something in his eyes. Something I didn't recognize. I just mean, you could make it profitable. People pay big money for rural experiences these days. Agritourism is booming. I shook my head. Bradley, I didn't buy this place to make money. I bought it to retire. He dropped it. Or so I thought. Before they left, he asked if he could have a spare key. Just in case of emergencies, Mom. You're out here alone. What if something happens? It made sense. So I gave him one. That was my first mistake. The next few months were bliss. I fell into a rhythm. I woke with the sun. I tended the garden. I read books on the porch. I took long walks with Rusty. I even started painting again, something I hadn't done since I was a teenager. I felt younger. Lighter. Happier. I called Bradley once a week, and he always sounded supportive. He'd ask about the chickens, the garden, the repairs I was making. He seemed genuinely interested. I thought we were closer than ever. In late summer, my best friend from nursing school, Linda, invited me to visit her in Colorado for 2 weeks. I hadn't seen her in years. I almost said no because I didn't want to leave the ranch. But Linda insisted. "Margaret, you've spent your whole life taking care of others. Take care of yourself for once." So I agreed. I asked my neighbor, old Mr. Jennings, to feed the chickens and check on Rusty. I packed my bags, locked up the house, and left. Those 2 weeks in Colorado were wonderful. Linda and I hiked. We laughed. We talked about the old days. I felt grateful. I felt free. I had no idea what was waiting for me back home. When I pulled into the driveway 2 weeks later, I knew immediately something was wrong. There were tire tracks everywhere. Deep ruts in the grass. The gate, which I always kept closed, was wide open. And then I saw it. A huge wooden sign near the entrance, Rancho Aventura, Premium Rural Experiences. My heart dropped. I drove closer, my hands shaking. There were trucks parked near the barn. People I didn't recognize were walking around my property. A group of tourists in matching t-shirts were taking photos by the pond. Someone had set up a zip line between 2 of my oak trees. A zip line. On my land. And standing in the middle of it all, wearing a cowboy hat and a clipboard, was Bradley. I parked the car and got out. My legs felt weak. Bradley saw me and his face lit up like he'd just won the lottery. He jogged over, arms wide open. "Mom. You're back early." Surprise. I couldn't speak. I just stared. He didn't seem to notice my shock. He grabbed my arm and started pulling me toward the barn. "Come on, let me show you what we've done. You're going to love it." He walked me through everything like he was giving a tour to an investor. He'd converted the barn into a rustic event space, with string lights and rented furniture. He'd built a fire pit area for glamping experiences. He'd brought in horses for trail rides. Horses. On my property. Without asking me. He'd even painted the house a different color. A garish red that he called barn chic. My voice finally came back. "Bradley. What the hell is this?" He grinned. "It's a business, Mom. Rancho Aventura. We offer corporate retreats, family experiences, romantic getaways. We've already booked 3 events next month. This place was sitting here doing nothing. Now it's making money." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "You did this without asking me?" He waved his hand dismissively. "Mom, you were gone. I didn't want to bother you on vacation. Besides, I knew you'd say no. You don't understand business. But trust me, this is good for both of us. You'll get a cut of the profits." A cut. Of the profits. From my own land. I wanted to scream. But a group of tourists walked past us, laughing and taking selfies. I couldn't make a scene. Not yet. So I smiled tightly and said, "We need to talk." Privately. Bradley followed me into the house. The inside was just as bad. He'd rearranged my furniture. There were brochures for Rancho Aventura on my kitchen table. My quiet, peaceful home had been turned into a visitor center. I turned to face him, and I didn't hold back. "Bradley, this is my property. Mine. I did not give you permission to do any of this. You need to shut it down. Now." He sighed like I was being unreasonable. "Mom, calm down. This is temporary. I just need to build up some capital so Stephanie and I can start our own business. Once we're stable, we'll move this somewhere else. But right now, we need this." I felt my blood pressure rising. "You used my land without asking. You put up signs. You brought in customers. Did you even think about liability? Insurance? Permits? He looked uncomfortable for the first time. I handled it. I registered the business under this address. It's all legal. My stomach dropped. You registered a business at my address? He shrugged. It was easier that way. Don't worry, Mom. It's fine. It wasn't fine. Nothing about this was fine. Over the next hour, I pried more information out of him. He'd signed contracts with vendors using my name. He'd taken out a small business loan using the ranch as collateral. My ranch. As collateral. And he'd done it all by forging my signature on a permission letter. My own son had committed fraud. Against me. When I confronted him, he didn't apologize. He got defensive. I did this for us, Mom. You're being selfish. I'm your son. You should want to help me. Stephanie appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. He's right, Margaret. Bradley has been working so hard. The least you could do is support him. You have all this space and you're not even using it properly. It's wasteful. I stared at her. Then at Bradley. These people, who I had fed and welcomed into my home, were calling me selfish for not wanting my retirement dream destroyed. I felt something break inside me. Not sadness. Not even anger. Something colder. Something sharper. I took a deep breath. Get out. Both of you. Bradley's face fell. Mom, come on. Get out. They left, but Bradley called me that night. And the next day. And the day after that. He apologized, sort of. He said he got carried away and didn't mean to overstep. But he didn't offer to shut down the business. He just wanted me to think about the partnership opportunity. He sent me spreadsheets showing projected profits. He sent me photos of happy customers. He acted like this was a gift, not a betrayal. I didn't respond. Because I was busy. I was planning. If Bradley wanted to play business games on my property, fine. But he was about to learn a lesson about who really owned this land. And it was a lesson he would never, ever forget. I called my lawyer first thing Monday morning. Her name was Patricia, and she'd helped me with the ranch purchase. I explained everything. The forged signatures. The business registration. The loan. She was horrified. Margaret, this is fraud. You could press charges. I thought about it. But I didn't want my son in jail. I just wanted my life back. Patricia laid out my options. We could void all the contracts. Cancel the business registration. Report the loan as fraudulent. And most importantly, I could transfer the ranch into an irrevocable trust with me as the sole beneficiary. That way, Bradley couldn't use it as collateral ever again. It would take a few weeks to process everything, but it was doable. Do it, I said. All of it. While Patricia worked on the legal side, I did my part. I started by calling every single vendor Bradley had contracted. The catering company. The horse rental service. The glamping equipment supplier. I told them the truth. The person who signed those contracts did not have authorization. The contracts were void. Most of them were understanding. A few threatened legal action, but Patricia handled it. Next, I contacted the county zoning office. Turns out, operating a commercial tourism business on agricultural land without the proper permits is illegal. Very illegal. I filed a formal complaint. An inspector came out within days. Bradley wasn't there, thank God. The inspector took photos, asked questions, and told me the business would be shut down if it didn't comply with regulations within 30 days. Perfect. Then I went to the bank about the loan. With Patricia's help, we proved the signature was forged. The bank launched an investigation. Bradley was in serious trouble. But I didn't stop there. I wanted him to feel the consequences. Really feel them. I found out Bradley had a big event scheduled for the ranch in 3 weeks. A corporate retreat for a tech company. 50 employees. 3 days. 2 nights. It was his biggest booking yet. He'd been bragging about it on social media. The company had already paid a deposit. Thousands of dollars. This event was supposed to be Bradley's big break. His proof that Rancho Aventura was a real business. I decided that would be the day I took everything back. Publicly. Humiliatingly. Completely. In the days leading up to the event, I played along. I called Bradley and told him I'd been thinking. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was being too rigid. I said I wanted to discuss a partnership. He was thrilled. He actually cried on the phone. "Mom, thank you. You won't regret this. We're going to make this place amazing." I let him believe it. I even visited the ranch a few days before the event. I watched him run around, setting up tents, arranging activities, coordinating with staff he'd hired. He was so proud. So confident. It almost made me feel guilty. Almost. The day of the corporate retreat arrived. It was a Friday morning. The guests started arriving around 10. Bradley was in full host mode, shaking hands, giving tours, handing out welcome drinks. Stephanie was there too, playing the gracious co-host. They'd even hired a photographer to document everything. They thought this was their moment. They had no idea. I arrived at noon with Patricia, my lawyer. And Sheriff Daniels. Bradley's face went white when he saw the patrol car. The guests stopped chatting. Everyone turned to look. Bradley rushed over. "Mom, what's going on? Why is the sheriff here?" I didn't smile. I didn't sugarcoat it. I pulled out a folder of documents and handed them to him. "This is a cease and desist order. This business is operating illegally on my property without my permission. You are to shut down all operations immediately." Bradley's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Mom, what are you talking about? We talked about this. You said you wanted to be partners." I looked him straight in the eye. I lied. The sheriff stepped forward. "Sir, you need to ask these people to leave. Now. If you don't comply, you'll be charged with trespassing and operating a fraudulent business." Stephanie grabbed Bradley's arm. "Do something. This is insane." But there was nothing he could do. Patricia handed him more documents. Proof that the business registration was void. Proof that the contracts were cancelled. Proof that the loan was being investigated as fraud. Bradley's entire empire collapsed in front of 50 corporate strangers with cameras. The guests were confused. Upset. The event coordinator demanded answers. Bradley tried to explain, but he couldn't. "How do you explain that you stole your mother's retirement dream?" The tech company demanded their deposit back on the spot. Bradley didn't have it. He'd already spent it on equipment and staff. They threatened legal action. The photographer kept snapping pictures. It was chaos. I stood there and watched it all unfold. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt tired. So tired. But I also felt something else. Power. Control. For the first time in months, I was in control of my own life again. Sheriff Daniels cleared everyone out. It took 2 hours. Bradley just stood there, silent, staring at the ground. Stephanie was on the phone, probably calling a lawyer. When the last guest left, I walked up to my son. He looked like a broken man. "Good. Bradley," I said quietly. "You stole from me. You lied to me. You disrespected everything I worked for. And you did it all because you thought I was weak. That I would just accept it." He opened his mouth, but I held up my hand. "I'm not done. You have 2 choices. You can pay back every cent you cost me. The loan. The damages. The legal fees. All of it. Or I press charges for fraud and forgery. Your choice. Tears ran down his face. Mom, I don't have that kind of money. Then you'll get a job. 2 jobs. 3 jobs. I don't care. You wanted to be a businessman? Prove it. Pay your debts. Stephanie tried to argue. Margaret, you're being cruel. He's your son. I turned to her slowly. And this is my land. My life. My retirement. He tried to take it all. Now he pays it back. I left them standing there. I got in my car with Patricia and drove away. Behind me, I could see Bradley in the rearview mirror, on his knees in the dirt. I didn't look back again. The next few months were hard. Bradley didn't speak to me. He got 2 jobs, one at a warehouse and one driving for a delivery service. Stephanie left him. She couldn't handle being married to someone who wasn't successful. Bradley moved into a tiny apartment. He worked 70 hours a week to pay me back. Every month, a check arrived. It wasn't much, but it was something. It was accountability. I hired contractors to undo the damage. The zip line came down. The barn was restored to its original state. The garish red paint was covered with a soft cream. I planted new flowers where the fire pit had been. Slowly, carefully, I reclaimed my ranch. I installed security cameras. I changed the locks. I put up a gate with a code only I knew. No one would ever take this from me again. One evening, about 4 months after the incident, Bradley showed up at the gate. He looked exhausted. Older. He pressed the intercom button. Mom, can we talk? Please? I almost said no. But something in his voice stopped me. I buzzed him in. He drove up slowly, parked, and got out. We sat on the porch. Rusty, my dog, growled at him. Even Rusty remembered. Bradley didn't make excuses this time. He just said, I'm sorry. I was selfish. I was desperate. And I convinced myself that what I was doing was okay because you're my mom and you'd forgive me. But I was wrong. I hurt you. And I'm so sorry. I didn't respond right away. I just sipped my coffee and watched the sunset. Finally, I said, you're right. You did hurt me. And it's going to take a long time before I trust you again. If I ever do. He nodded. I understand. We sat in silence for a while. Then I asked, have you learned anything from this? He looked at me with red eyes. Yeah. I learned that respect isn't automatic. Even between family. I have to earn it. And I learned that you're a lot stronger than I ever gave you credit for. I smiled for the first time in months. Damn right I am. Bradley stayed for an hour. We didn't talk much. But it was a start. When he left, I felt something shift. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe, eventually, understanding. As I write this, it's been almost a year since I bought this ranch. It looks exactly how I imagined it. Peaceful. Quiet. Mine. The chickens are thriving. The garden is full. Rusty is asleep at my feet. I wake up every morning without an alarm. I drink my coffee on the porch. I watch the sunrise. And I smile. Bradley is still paying me back. He's down to 1 job now, something in sales. He calls once a month. We talk about safe things. The weather. The chickens. He hasn't asked to visit again. Maybe one day he will. Maybe I'll even say yes. People ask me if I regret what I did. If I was too harsh. If I should have just talked to him instead of humiliating him. And my answer is always the same, no. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. Bradley needed to understand that actions have consequences. That love doesn't mean you get to take advantage. That respect is earned, not given. I worked 35 years for this peace. I sacrificed everything. And I'll be damned if anyone, even my own son, takes it from me. So yeah, I gave him a lesson he'll never forget. And you know what? I'd do it again. If you've ever had someone take advantage of your kindness, write in the comments. Let me know I'm not alone. And if you liked this story, hit that subscribe button. Because trust me, I've got more where this came from. Life's too short to let people walk all over you. Even if they're family. Especially if they're family. I'm Margaret. I'm 58 years old. I own a 20-acre ranch. And I don't take shit from anyone anymore. Not even my son. This is my land. My rules. My life. And it's finally exactly what I always dreamed it would be. Quiet. Peaceful. And completely, undeniably mine.